What up, YouTube? It's part 2 of my video series on why some women don't feel like they're good enough for a good man, or they deserve a good man. And I was talking to one of my female friends, and she had expressed some of this stuff to me before in the past, so I asked her again. We talked about it, and she said that she's in her late 20s, and she said that she felt sort of less than adequate as far as being able to offer a man something truly special, because she became sexually active at a young age and ended up with children, like a lot of women do. But she became more spiritual and started to understand that sex wasn't just a physical thing that people just did. It was supposed to be a spiritual act and a unity between two individuals that made a lifelong commitment to themselves, to each other, in an exclusive relationship, i.e. marriage. And that children were supposed to be the lasting, I guess, the lasting gift, I could say, from having that type of union and building a family. And anyway, this is the way it was supposed to be, and because she didn't have that anymore, she felt like she couldn't really offer a man, that element of her was no longer special. It was no longer sacred. So I think I was listening to this other sister. Her name was Two-Face21. She was saying that she was talking about the types of attributes that she would want in her man. First thing she said was that I need my man to be conscious. Okay, I need my man to be conscious, and I need my man to understand what's going on out here in the world, and to be able to communicate that to me. And this is something I really don't hear women talk about, and well, people in general. And especially, I don't really hear women talk about, I need a man that's and act on it. I need a man that's conscious, that's not just intellectually aware as far as book smarts, but is generally aware of what's happening in society, whether it be politically, economically, or whatever. And a man that is both consciously aware, but is spiritually aware and spiritually developed too. It has a relationship with the Lord. And these are concepts that this sister was talking about, but these are concepts that should be first and foremost among relationships, both with men and women, because ultimately, when it comes down to it, we are spiritual beings. And we are spiritual beings that have minds that inhabit our bodies. Okay? We're not just bodies, walking around here just doing whatever. We actually have a mind that is like the interface and the go-between between our physical world and the spiritual world. Is our consciousness. So if you have an underdeveloped consciousness and an underdeveloped spiritual life, then when it comes to the physical, you're always going to feel diminished. You're always going to feel diminished. And I think a lot of the problem with a lot of these women is, they have no basis as far as being spiritually and consciously developed and aware. So when you end up coming across a guy that does have some of that, it makes you feel extremely, deficient in something, right? It makes, whereas, and it's a shame our society focuses so much on sex and women being sexy and objectifying women, rather than teaching women, and both men and women in general, that teaching women about expanding their consciousness. And we as a country used to have a pretty decent spiritual basis. This country was mainly Christian. And there's a lot of reasons why America was successful because of Christianity. A lot of people were going to dart it out or whatever, but the founding fathers based a lot of their principles on the Bible and principles that Jesus talked about, even though they didn't always follow. Women were second-class citizens, it was slavery, all that. But generally, you know, the freedom that we have as people came from at least spiritually aware men that understood that the freedom of consciousness and spiritual awareness played a role in having a successful nation. That goes all the way down to having a successful community and a successful relationship. So I think if more women were taught to be focused on developing their own consciousness, number one, and their own relationship with the Lord and becoming spiritually aware and developed, then when they do, number one, they'll look for that in a man rather than this superficial, nonsense that this society puts out that ends up ruining relationships. Children are born, there's no father around now, and the mother's still crazy. So now we got this big mess in America that we have today, with the generation that's coming up, are completely messed up because there's no spiritual values and there's no conscious expansion or development of consciousness. So anyway, that's just my suggestion as to how women that may be in this situation can overcome their type of their lack of self-esteem or inadequacies, or feeling less than. And you have to look at the past, and you have to be logical and admit to yourself that, yes, I made this mistake, I made that mistake, that was a bad relationship, and it was because of this reason, and I chose that guy, and it was the wrong choice. So now let me look for what the right choice is and not do the same thing all over again. And self-responsibility and admitting to the fact that you've made decisions and choices to contribute to your past mistakes, right? Admitting that and being responsible for that helps to empower you to change it in the future. A lot of women don't. This girl on Tom Leykis show I talked about in part one, she wouldn't admit to, she wouldn't take responsibility for her actions. It was all the guy's fault. Okay, what this did was disempower her from changing how she behaved in the future. She probably was some knucklehead right now. But as long, if you take responsibility and say, yeah, I made those decisions, they were bad, but I can make better decisions in the future, and look at it from that perspective, you don't have to go through the same, the same nonsense all over again. So, they have to end up being one of these bitter women in their, 50s that, whose life is completely jacked up because they never changed the way they behave. Anyway, I guess it was just kind of a rant. It's not as structured as it usually is, but hopefully this helps. And I just wanted to kind of bring light to a situation that I think should be talked about more often. Anyway, sisters, y'all stay up.